Hi, everyone. This is Greta Bro, and this is Nanna Svendsen over here. And we decided to do an Equinox poetry reading and just discuss what we think is up, at least for us, and hopefully it's relevant to a broader crowd. So, anyway, so we're going to start with a short meditation, okay, just to center ourselves. And thank you for those of you who've come today. Just a short little meditation. Okay. So Nana and I have been talking about doing something on the fall equinox this year. These are such powerful threshold times. And we wanted the theme to be something around embracing it all, embracing what is. And what does that feel like to you? So your friend of yours or your parent is sick, or, the climate crisis is looming over all of us. um, Political madness, war, and there's a lot, not to mention our own, what we're working on in our own inner lives. So we just thought that we would talk about and read our poems and try to shed some light on that process of accepting everything as a way, not as a way to simply uh, passively accept, but as more as a co-creator, as someone who's working with what is, and believing that that is the threshold we need to be at any given time, both individually and collectively, to transform, to meet our full potential. So Nana has a poem that she just wrote about the equinox. Nana, you want to say something?
I do. True to form of today, I'm in a quandary. The one I just wrote, or the one I had actually planned to read. The Winds of Change. They both work. I want to read them both.
Andrea's saying read both. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll read both. I might start with the Winds of Change, following on to what you were saying about these are very intense. They're very intense times. And I find myself responding by wanting to simplify. And you and I will finish on that theme of simplifying. It's like, as in complex times, I just want to simplify my life. And I'm finding that that is sort of naturally happening. Maybe the gift of maturing and entering the wisdom years. And I don't need so much outer stimulation. I just need the space to commune with nature and be with myself. So I'm rather delighting in that. Though that doesn't mean that life isn't still up and down, because life is. And the poem I wrote this morning says something about that. And this poem says something about that. And this one was written a couple of weeks ago, and it's called The Winds of Change. The Winds of Change. The winds of change are roaring across the land. pummeling both house and garden. How resilient the plants seem to be. They may sway considerably, yet most are still standing. But the new wooden fence, in all its rigid glory, could not withstand the onslaught and is now leaning precariously. So too for us. Perhaps those inner survival mechanisms we have constructed, or those strict ideas about how we or others should be, that are too rigid and no longer suit what a deeper part of us knows and loves, will not withstand the tumult, of these times, or the rigors of maturing with consciousness. Perhaps for all our vulnerabilities, when it's so tempting to stiffen and hold on to old forms, perhaps we can let ourselves soften, land in the wisdom of the heart, and be like those plants and flowers, able to bend with the flow. Be like those plants and flowers, able to bend with the flow and with life's unfolding, whilst maintaining an essential sense of integrity. Yes, the winds of change are roaring across the land, pummeling the house and the garden. What will they bring at the start of a new season in which we are moving ever closer to the fall?
Lovely, Nanna.
Thank you.
And wow, thank you.
Yeah, it's just beautiful.
Thank you.
And since these are threshold times, I was going to read my poem called At the Threshold. But I don't know, did you want to read the Equinox poem or read? Let's see.
I think you read that at the threshold, and we'll see how we go. It's nice to have that rhythm too. I've read, you read.
Okay, except I can't find my second page. This does happen to me. So what I'm going to do is read it on my computer. Sorry. I'm having one of those days where everything technical is challenging. Okay, let's see. Where are you on my computer? All right, here it is, and I will read it here. And I wrote this about the way that in times of change, or where there's intense, I mean, they created a new psychology called climate change psychology. Because this is such, I mean, it's frightening. It's frightening. People are having all kinds of issues as a result of not simply, raging forest fires in their backyards and huge tornadoes and floods, but also, just the terror that goes with this amount of change so rapidly. So, of course, the poem I wrote is At the Threshold, but it's also, we're all at a threshold where we need to be very conscious of our choices and the impact they have on our world and our lives, and trying to tap a deeper and more native source of self, the soul, and from that place recreating our world with reverence, love, compassion for all beings. Anyway, so And I think one of the reasons we resist change is we're afraid we're not enough, or it's just, it was not, we get up to that threshold and it's like, yikes, the unknown is scary. And do I have enough to meet it? So here is this poem, At the Threshold. At the threshold, I weep. I weep for all that is unfinished and unexpressed. I fear that I will not make the right choices, that I will fall short in my efforts going forward. But then something arises in me, hidden strengths and new awareness fill my senses, pushing past old narrative patterns, beliefs, projections, and fear. Peace unexpectedly expands inside my belly, and courage swells inside my heart. Fear diminishes, and I feel more ready to take the next step. I find my consciousness soaring to an eagle's view. I perch on top of a great tree by the ocean and stare out over a lumbering parade of cumulus clouds. Possibility fills my senses. Vision clarifies, and like a long-distance runner, I sense a crowd of ancestors, beloved pets, and spirit teachers cheering me on. I am their hope, their promise, the champion of their unfinished dreams. I begin to descend from my reverie and gently glide back down to earth. I am ready to face the unknown that awaits me, reassured and more confident in myself. I know now that I have always been enough. I feel loved beyond my wildest dreams. I find my footing and slowly walk forward as if emerging from a dense fog. An enchanted path spreads out before me, meandering along the seaside and across a meadow to a bridge leading anywhere I choose. I laugh and then throw up my arms in gratitude and praise. I sense that all who have ever companioned me throughout my many lifetimes walk with me now as I approach the finish line, which is paradoxically also the beginning point. How could I have ever feared this place? I am flooded with love. I know now who I am. I am a co-creator. It's the first time I've read that poem. So where do we go from here, Nanna? Aida Svendsen and Nanna?
Well, actually,
I'm just saying,
as you sort of introduced it, talking about the thresholds that we're on, also environmentally, climatically, and all of that, I was thinking we could go to our butterfly poems.
okay.
What do you think?
Sure.
Okay. Because coincidentally, I have a butterfly poem. Greta has a butterfly poem. We notice that coincidentally we have poems around similar themes, which is so reassuring to feel that there's a deeper connection of experience and that we're somehow riding an unfolding wave of consciousness that we're connected through and with. So that feels pretty good. And so this was written maybe a month ago. I have the garden where I live has a sort of strip of land between the house and the neighbour's field. And we've chosen this year to let that strip of land go wild. And then we've just cut through a few pathways so you can wander through the pathways. And I like to, of a morning before I start my day, to wander those pathways. And so it says in the poem, I'm wearing my nightgown, which is neither here nor there, except it is here. And what I mean by that, and you can see if this is your experience as well, but I find so often for me that there is a sacred time available in the morning, whilst I'm still a little connected to the dream time and still have not assumed the garb needed for the day, and that somehow brings in a few more defenses, being properly, quote unquote, dressed, and something about still being in that nightgown state, that between the worlds state, is very conducive for opening to nature, to myself, or for writing a poem. So that's the significance. of wearing the nightgown, wandering through the garden. And I will read you this poem. And it's called The Small Blue Butterfly. The small blue butterfly was in the meadow again today. Almost extinct, thanks to loss of habitats. It felt like a privilege to see it as I ambled in my nightgown of an early morning along mown paths through the part of the garden left uncultivated and now full of grasses and wildflowers. Those tiny pale butterflies are said to herald good fortune. After a night spent with the aches and the worries, the notion feels reassuring. How meaningful and soothing a saunter through the garden can be. How meaningful and soothing a saunter through the garden can be, with its invitation to soften around emotional wounds and welcome feelings as well as insights to reveal themselves like the secret magic of a meadow in the early morning light. These more meditative approaches for all the tribes are perhaps the gifts in along with a growing reluctance to go against the soul sense inside, a growing reluctance to go against the soul sense inside, knowing that to do so always comes at a cost, as does the inability to wait for a process to unfold or for time to be right. As vulnerability and receptivity to life in its beauty and its pain increases, so does the sense of connection to the essential. As vulnerability and receptivity to life in its beauty and its pain increases, so does a sense of connection to the essential. As energy retreat from the peripheral to land, if we're willing, in the wisdom of the heart, a simple thing, like finding a small blue butterfly fluttering in a meadow, becomes a treat, as does listening to Beethoven's Fifth Piano Concerto, second movement. As I write this, its haunting tenderness brings tears. Somehow, it just seems to fit.
Lovely, Nanna. Yeah.
Thank you.
Life is so much about trusting those synchronistic moments. You know, what happens next? What happens next? And when we're caught up in fear, we can't settle in that presence where we see the unfolding gift in front of us. Wow, that's amazing. How did that get at that moment at the same time I did? You know, it could be the butterfly, it could be a person coming at the exact moment. A friend of mine was telling me this story. He just lost his brother. He was sitting in a cafe and he just started talking to him, and he had just lost his brother. And they had this deep sharing. It was just that, the universe arranged that meeting, that comfort, that truth telling, that holding. So, and this happens all the time. I mean, right now, I keep going into a kind of bliss because all my wild asters are blooming in the backyard, and the bees and all the pollinators are going nuts. I mean, I'm talking about a half an acre of flowers. And, I have little paths in the middle of it, like what you were saying in your poem, Nanna, on your side yard. And it's just like, wow, wow, what else do you need? You know, and of course it's ephemeral. It'll give way to autumn, and autumn is its own gorgeous beauty. But what is that state of presence that allows us to see through a different lens, to be there in that moment with whatever is unfolding? So I was in traffic going to a doctor's appointment, dentist appointment, and we were all stuck trying to, cloverleaf into another road to get to and it was just like inching along. And I look up and there's this little monarch butterfly, just going along it above us and riding all the heat currents of our cars and, taking its long, brave journey south. And it touched me so much that I started to scribble down a poem in my car. So this is fresh off the press and I'll probably edit it more, but I call it Monarch Butterfly. End of summer, floating, twisting in the currents of air, a solo monarch high above lines of stalled traffic makes her way. A rare sight these days. Well, what must she think of our human madness? She will fly over thousands of tangled highways on her journey south to Mexico. Little survivor of a vanishing breed. I send out a prayer to accompany her in the hopes it will help her stay aloft. I make a promise. One day humanity will not be this disconnected and greedy. Some of us, like you, have already begun the long journey to the promised land where lush forests thrive and compassion reigns. Please stay alive, little voyager. Our souls need your inspiration and graceful beauty to remind us of who we really are. You are a small but powerful teacher. I see you.
Beautiful, Greta.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Yeah, from my heart.
Yeah, really.
So what are you thinking next, my dear? How poppies or?
Yeah, that is exactly what I was thinking of next. Poppies.
One of Nanna's poems.
It seems Greta and I have spoken of, though in a deep way connected to soul and in a spiritual way, we're all connected. So in that sense, there's a profound oneness, but there's also an individuation piece. And I find, and Greta and I have spoken of, that sometimes we don't feel all that mainstream, actually, because we're prioritizing something different. A friend of ours called Greta, Cheryl Richardson, spoke of it as moving out of the roles, the good daughter, the responsible husband, the career person, or whatever role it is, or the survival pattern, moving out of the role and coming into soul. And each soul has its uniqueness as well. And if you're doing the soul's path and you're surrounded by roles, that can feel lonely at times. It can feel hard to connect. Even though sometimes when you do share soul, it can awaken something in some people. Sometimes it can be too much and they'll try and shut you down. Sometimes they'll welcome it, and sometimes it can be a lonely journey. So this poem, Poppies, says something about that. It was written a little earlier in the season when there were a lot of poppies. Poppies. I sit on the deck looking out across the garden to the poppies, standing haphazardly at the edge of a cultivated field of grain that grows in obedient rows where no wild flower is invited. I sit on the deck looking out across the garden to the poppies standing haphazardly at the edge of a cultivated field of grain that grows in obedient rows where no wild flower is invited. I feel a certain resonance with those poppies. Some of us are given to be quietly outsiders. Some of us are given to be quietly wild outsiders. Those who are artists of a kind, following and honoring the heart, living examined, contemplating lives, and delving deeply. Those with an innate sense that suddenly lost my place here. Those with an innate sense that a kinder, wiser world is possible, and that they're here to help bring it about. Ordinary lives. And yet, there can be a particular fragrance to those who choose to live this way, a subtle radiance that can help illuminate the world. Just as those poppies dancing delicately in the wind, bringing colour to the edge of the endless swaying green of a field. One poppy stands all alone amidst the grain. I don't envy that flower. It can be difficult to be seen to be different. It's so easy to be mocked, and the consolation of other poppies may be hard to find. It might become friends, though, with some of the grains. I look at the poppies at the edge of the field. They are such potent symbols of remembrance, hope, and peace, as they stand quietly, offering their fragile yet luminous beauty to the world.
So true, Nanna. So true. So hard to be the authentic self, to stand out, as you said, but stand out maybe wildly, but also peacefully, being yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly.
Well,
Yes.
the next poem we have on our list to read is my poem, "The River," which I just sent to you, Telly. But I was thinking you should put that to music, man. But not you should, but I would love to hear that. He does roomy poems, puts them to music. But anyway, I woke up in the middle of the night, maybe 2008, something like that. Much to my partner Ricardo's chagrin, he was like, "What? What?" And I woke up and I said, "Oh my God, it's a river." And I mean, I got it that the soul is not some sort of big light hovering above you. It's not, it's a river of being, of consciousness that flows through us. So this poem started to articulate itself years ago and then finally came through. And I read this a couple of times, but I thought I'd read it today. Just what is that self, that deeper reality that is us? What is that self that is beyond fear, really? It's beyond constricting ideas, toxic conditioning. It's full of possibility and promise. It knows things. It enlivens our senses with all kinds of expanded awareness. What is this self? So this poem is called "The River." There is a river, a great current of healing waters that streams through all of us. We are the portal, the terrain, and the medium through which it flows. It awakens slumbering truth, broadens inner passageways narrowed by icebergs of interrupted emotion. It thaws frozen speech, frees blocks of stagnant perception, and reunites body and soul, unleashing an instinctual love so powerful that toxic infrastructures of shame and self-loathing collapse under their own dead weight. Mudslides transform into tides of ambrosia, the inner landscape reclaimed and reshaped one valley at a time, love pushing through us with great determination, redefining contours of repression, liberating and reuniting elements of wholeness, creating a house for the soul, making our hearts overflow with gratitude, compassion racing through human arteries, bones humming with sacred harmonies, molecules of light dancing in constellations of clarity and faith, until illusion is abandoned, the disguise cast off, mind no longer reacting, resting in a vast stillness, action arising from an open heart, and the indwelling reverberations of spirit, life in naked radiance, flooding the body with passion and sweetness, a dynamic spiral of presence and pleasure, heaven and earth wed, all divides crossed, all time span, the new world revealed within.
Mm.
So now, thank you. So now writing for Nanna. Thank you for receiving Nanna and my souls as we express ourselves today. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I'm almost wondering if we want to do simple pleasures now, if that's a lovely way of rounding. Did you have, and then of course I have the fall equinox, but we could end our whole conversation with that.
I think that would be good. Did you want to do your poem or my song first? This is another example. She wrote a poem called Simple Pleasures, maybe 10, 15 years after I had written this song. Simple Pleasures. It's just, we just keep.
Why don't I do the poem and then you just segue into the song?
Okay, we can end with this.
Does that sound good?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. So this is, I must remember next time we do this, that I actually should, as it's getting darker, I should actually bring reading glasses with me, because I'm like, so try and get some light here.
Got mine on. I'm along.
You've got yours on, yeah.
Sure, it is harder.
In fact, I'm going to move a little bit just to get a bit more light onto this page. All right, simple pleasures. I saw the hedgehog again this morning. Ambling slowly alongside the hedgerow. Sign of a need of protection, it is said. Yes, I could do with some of that. At a time of one onslaught after another. I wonder if things will start to ease now as autumn equinox approaches, with its subtle shift in the balance between darkness and light. These are rough times. There can be a need to draw comfort from simple pleasures, a good book, holding hands with a loved one, a kind look or word, a quiet moment in the garden with a hedgehog. There can be a need to deepen into the moment, alone and together, deepen into the moment, alone and together, partake in the simple yet profound pleasure of a good conversation, where there is a real invitation to the heart, and share the genuine without attack and without being shamed. Autumn equinox approaches, bringing with it a chance to acknowledge the griefs and the gifts to be found, both in darkness and in light, and offer the hedgehog in the garden and the hedgehog within me a chance to lower its quills, feel safe, and rest.
Oh, that's perfect, Nanna. That's perfect. So I guess that's perfect. When we come into presence, when we're seeing through the soul lens, less is more. You don't need so much because everything's so alive with beauty. Everything's vibrating with this light. So it's more interesting to bring that soul consciousness, that soul lens forward. It would end our consumerism issues. We wouldn't be compensating all the time by buying things. We would just sit out with our asters and go into bliss or by the ocean, or with small children or animals. There's so many ways that the light is coming to us and love is coming to us. So this song I wrote it's also called Simple Pleasures. I wrote it in the 90s. So it's a little more pop than we have our poems, but hopefully it will speak to you. And also many of you know Stan Strickland, he's playing on it. So, and I think we'll end with that. And so I'll play it right now for you. Here it is. Can you hear it okay? It's the simple pleasures of life, like watching a baby learn how to smile, or your favorite shoes coming back in style. Simple pleasures of life, simple pleasures of life. It's the way that we speak without a sound. It's a hummingbird just making rounds. It's like working hard, then sitting down. Simple pleasures of life, simple pleasures of life, and it's free. Oh, it's free. Oh, simple pleasures of life, simple pleasures of life. It's a belly laugh with a friend. It's a summer day that never ends. It's like making sweet love that's starting again. Simple pleasures of life, simple pleasures of life. It's the float in my skirts coming down the stairs. It's the smell of sweet grass moving on the air. Got those simple pleasures, they're everywhere. Simple pleasures of life, simple pleasures Well, thank you for listening to that. And Stan just goes for it at one point. It's just it's so great. So fun to collaborate. But anyway, so just grounded it in, pop culture there. But thank you all for coming today. And yeah, this has just been.
Thank you both.
Do you think complete with full equinox and then we stop recording and then we start sharing all together?
Sounds good. Yes.
Does that sound all right?
Yes.
This is written today. This is right of the moment. It's like a snapshot of the energy for me here today. It's called fall equinox, and of course it is fall equinox. Rain is falling softly, but before I do that, that was a gorgeous song. I love that song. Thank you so much, Greta. It's really, the flowing of it and all the rest of it is just,
From 30
yes.
years ago, but I thought, yeah, here it is. Yeah.
It is. So in completion then this, fall equinox. Rain is falling softly beyond the open door to the deck. The day cloudy and grey. Autumn, equinox. Yes, I can feel it. No longer appealing to sit outside, huddled in an armchair in the kitchen. I like the nights I'm drawing in. Poised at the edge of descent, I am not without grief. I'm not without grief. At this shift in the seasons, the outward thrust of summer all gone. Time to recollect, time to recollect. Wine if I must, with the impending fall, while savouring the burgeoning autumnal beauty all around me, and the promise of the gifts a more inward focus might bring.
Beautiful, Nanna. Perfect. Again, naming
So happy equinox, everyone.
Like that.
happy
Thank you.
equinox, absolutely. And all these equinox, solstice, spring equinox, they're all places where the veils part and portals are created. There's a time where we shift at that threshold and we're open. We can be open. So, and this poem came through equinox at that moment of opening. But so much can come through with those. Our ancestors knew about it, that these points of season change were not just that. They were bigger. They were doorways to explore ourselves and to explore the universe. So anyway, so beautiful. Thank you, Nanna, for sharing that, really. And thank you all for receiving us again.
Thank you, Greta, for all the sharing and all the exquisite listening that makes the speaking possible.
Yes.
I'm wondering if we conclude the recording now and then just go into anybody who wants to say anything can.
Yes. So So thank you those who are joining us online at a later date. So thank you. And I'm going to stop the recording. So we figure out how to do it. Oh, there we go.